I know that I'm not supposed to pick favorites when it comes to connection coders, but let me just say that when I met Lydia and Sebastian for the very first time, I instantly fell in love. And I'm not going to give away any of their story in this intro. Listen and find out how they discovered the connection codes and then how they used it in their relationship. I have so much joy that you get to meet them today as our very first German certified connection codes coaches. I've mentioned it a few times on the podcast. We just wrapped up our very first cohort of our certified coaching program. And through that cohort, we left off with now Spanish speaking certified coaches, French speaking, and German speaking certified coaches, which just brings me so much joy in who we are now going to be able to reach so they can learn how to identify and process their emotions so they can connect in relationships, which is our entire mission here at the Connection Codes. But today you get to meet Lydia and Sebastian, and their story of falling in love and how they've used these tools is just absolutely beautiful and incredible, and my wish and hope for anyone. So welcome to the Connection Codes podcast. This is the podcast where we break open the emotions that take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and in ourselves. I am your host, Tiara Wages, and joining me is marriage and family therapist, clinical sexologist, Dr. Glenn Hill, and his incredible wife, Phyllis Hill. Together, they have founded the Connection Codes, which is the guide to human connection. And we're so glad you're here.
Hello, world.
Hi, friends. We are so excited to have Sebastian and Lydia on our podcast today. And these guys have just gotten to be really dear to us. They are some of our new Connection Codes coaches, and they are in Germany. So they speak German, which we are just so thrilled about. So much joy knowing that this is spreading through Germany and that we now have coaches over there who can come and speak to your church in Germany. They can also coach you guys who need that language for yourselves. So thank you guys for being here and for sharing your story. And, you know, part of your story, of course, we want the world to hear because I believe it's a really powerful story and very common as far as the people that we've come across. So thank you for being with us today and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So for our listeners, just give us a little bit, I know as far as how long you've been married, and then a little bit of your dating story, and really though more about even just what you guys have discovered and the ways that you just through your Connection Code story, what has happened within that?
Start.
Sure. So we've been married for 1 year. And we've known each other for like
2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years. And before we met each other, we had both very different stories. So I was super afraid of any kind of romantic relationships because everything that I had been seeing, especially in church, because I was surrounded by Christian church couples, it didn't really sound that good. And there was so much fear, but kind of translated into the behavior of just not wanting or trying to get into a relationship. And I was like 27-ish, had never had a relationship, a romantic relationship. And I was just super afraid. And then we kind of met at a Christian party for New Year's Eve. And I just thought, he is so interesting and I would really love to get to know him, but there's no way that I could do this. And we just exchanged numbers. We kind of had a little chat and I just heard, he's also into this Christian counseling inside his church. And I was doing that in my church. And it was through another Instagram page where they talked about your first podcast, the first Connection Codes podcast. And I listened to it and I just thought, wow, this is amazing for church counseling. And I thought, well, maybe this guy is also interested in it. So I just sent it to him and just like, trying not to be too obvious and send it to him. And he listened to it, said, oh, thanks. Yeah, that's really interesting. And it just took us like a couple more months until we went out for a coffee. And that's kind of how our relationship was built. And for me, like, I know for sure I would have never gotten to the point to be able to get married without the connection codes. So yeah, we lived 2 hours apart. So every time we would meet in the middle, we would listen on our ways to one of the podcasts. And on the day, we would discuss it and share what we learned and talk about it. And it just gave us so many amazing conversations. So yeah, we just love you so much. It's
okay. Now, Lydia, for because most people don't watch the podcast; they just listen to it. You didn't mention the fact that Sebastian is gorgeous. So, I mean, you said he was interesting, but you didn't mention the gorgeous part. So I just want to let people know that's just important.
Wow. Yes. Very handsome, Sebastian. Very handsome.
so good you mentioned that, Glenn.
Yes.
Well, just want to throw that in there.
You probably caught her attention. Yes, for sure.
It's a bonus.
So, it really is amazing, just that part of your story, that simply through listening to the podcast and sharing that with each other and then talking about it on your dates set you guys up to be able to be emotionally connected before you guys got married. And so then share with us a little bit about how did that go for y'all through the honeymoon and then just the early part of your marriage.
We really were convinced that it's very important for us to wait with having sex until our marriage and until we get married and until our wedding night. And yeah, we really kind of planned everything for us to be able to live it that way, because it was super important to both of us. It was really funny because, for me, the story I've always heard was that like wedding nights suck if you're a woman. It's extremely painful, but you're gonna forget it. And with like a couple of years, you're gonna maybe have kind of sex that you might enjoy. That's kind of the story I've been told. And also I've experienced with my close girlfriends, which they were like, they looked as though they were beaten for weeks after the honeymoon. And yeah, it was so much fear. And I think 2 weeks before our wedding, I had a panic attack. I came home from work and I was like crying. I was like, God, I'm not going to do this. Like, I can't do this to myself. I have such a low tolerance for pain. And I know if this hurts, I'm not ever going to do it again. And, that was kind of the story for me. Yeah. And so I went on, we had bought the course by then. And in one bonus module, you were talking about the wedding night, and that gave me so much joy and peace back. And that gave me also the hope that, okay, this doesn't have to be this way. Of course, I had never had a relationship before. And kind of the narrative I was told is like sex is either like as a woman, it really sucks, or it can also be like the best thing you've ever had and best thing you ever experienced. And after hearing this bonus episode, this was like, okay, so I won't have the problem that all my friends had because we have the tools now and the knowledge. So I guess everything's just gonna be amazing from the beginning. And just there was so much joy and excitement. Yeah, and then we had our wedding ceremony and our friends and everything, and there was like the time was passing, and we had also kind of talked about it that we really wanted to do an emotion wheel as soon as we got together, just the two of us. And that's really how it started. Like that was like the evening of our wedding. It was like we started with an emotion wheel, just processing all the emotions of the day. We took time to just get down from all the rush from the day and everything. And then?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go for it.
The connection codes helped us so much creating safe space, process all the emotions which came up on this day and which came up on thinking about sex. And that helped us so much, just doing the wheel, creating safe space and being able to be vulnerable and to process all the emotions which came up.
So, Sebastian, I'd love to hear more of that from you, especially, I mean, for both of you, but because for most guys, you know, you're married now. And again, whether there's been some level of abstinence or not, but they're just thinking, oh my gosh, this is just so exciting. You know, finally I get to put tab A into slot B. And so doing the core motion wheel takes slowing down. That's the very moment when you want to speed up. And of course, as the connection coders, we say slower is faster. So how did you manage that? Because it's a neat idea. It sounds great, you know, as far as the big picture, but to actually do that in the moment, did the two of you talk about this in advance as far as like doing the core motion wheel on your wedding night?
Yeah, we planned it to do it before we have sex. We want to do the wheel. We want to process emotion because we knew it's so important that we are connected, that there's deep connection. And because of this, we can have sex with connection.
Yeah. Wow. That's just brilliant, dude. I mean, I don't know if you realize how smart you are that you're able to do that just to realize, because I mean, serious, I mean, and again, it could be for the female too, but for the male, he's just thinking, oh my gosh, this is such a cool, opportunity, potential experience. And to be smart enough to go, yeah, but we're going to make sure that, and again, it's for both of you, but that she feels safe with me, that she feels seen and heard and valued before we do. Because sex is a very small percentage of sex, of great sex, is actually the physical aspect. There is that, and that's awesome and wonderful, but there's a whole lot more to it than just the physical, the exact physical interaction. There's because we're such complex beings, there's a whole lot more to it than that. Because I'd love to take just that video clip and get everybody on the planet to realize that this is just works to make space for both of you, but especially for the woman to be able to be seen and heard and valued in that moment. Wow, spectacular! I love it.
And, I think the question that everyone would be asking is, so then did it make it all perfect? Was it all smooth sailing and you had no struggles in that area at all? Or was there, times when it was a struggle? Has there been times that there's been struggles in that area for you guys?
Well, the one struggle that kind of like both of us were really afraid of, that it would be painful for me and like traumatic or something, that really didn't happen. And there's so much joy, like no pain and so much joy and connection. And we're like, yes, we did it. This is incredible. Nobody will ever believe us. Nobody will believe this is even possible. Yeah, but then we really soon realized that there was another struggle, and one that we really didn't expect.
And do you mind sharing with us the struggle?
Sure. That was my side of the story. I mean, I loved how good it went for her, but my story is that I was really surprised how hard it was to get into sexuality, seeing that it's not that easy. I mean, I'm faith-based, and I don't know if I call it right, lived in purity for 6-7 years without even thinking about this topic. And I thought, hey, I'm doing an awesome job. God likes what I'm doing. And in this night, I can have sex, I can enjoy, and it's going to be awesome. And I realized that it's not that easy, and that, I really struggled with it. We were able to process this, but having the connection codes didn't mean we had no problems. We were able to talk about it.
Yeah. And I love that. And thank you, Sebastian, for just being so vulnerable with that. And I think especially for our to me, the listeners, to realize that there's times when things come that you don't expect, right? And it's not even what society talks about or what, your friends. It's such a vulnerable topic, and we've made it even uncomfortable within our friend groups, within our churches. Like, we just don't talk about it. And, for your story, so much could have unraveled for the two of you if you didn't have the tools to know how to communicate the emotion, how to communicate what was happening with you. And we, of course, are often on the other side dealing with couples who've been married a long time who don't know how to talk about this, who have struggled in this area, who now have caused so much damage through the trauma of secrecy or shame or not speaking about it and being stuck in that. And, it's so incredible to know your story and to realize that even though it didn't go how you expected, and matter of fact, it was very unexpected, that you had the tools to be able to process that. And, and I think we've talked a lot about this, just your heart to share your story is to help others to know and to give, especially couples that are engaged and are on this road, have been on the road of purity. And Lydia, I even appreciate just how 2 weeks before the wedding, you're like, so much fear. I don't know that I can do this because you weren't given good messaging. It was almost like, it's going to hurt. So just, but eventually it'll stop hurting. And that it's really hard for your body to go into that because we are meant to protect ourselves and our bodies. And so I'm so thankful that you had the tools and that you guys were able to process through even that fear and to, to be so aware of each other. And, what would you say if you had a message to give to others? What would that be at this point? You're a year in, and what would you want to have known that you didn't know, but you do now?
I would say that you have to process emotion over and over again.
Yeah, I would say the same. Things will come up. There's no possibility there won't be any problems, but you can talk with each other. You can process it, and be there for each other. That will change everything.
Yeah, and I love for both of you, what you say, just that, life is filled with challenges, with struggles, with stressors. That's just part of the human condition. That's been true forever. Every human ever. It doesn't hunter-gatherer societies. It doesn't matter what the culture is. But as connection coders, we now know what to do next. We have the tools. So it's not that, Sebastian and Lydia marry and just live happily ever after. Well, they're real humans too. They're going to experience what they experience, but they know what to do. And, of course, the two of you know our story and our listeners know our story. We missed each other on our wedding night and we didn't know what to do. We had no tools, and we were 20 years. I'm not talking about 20 days, 20 years into that before we got a clue. And that's a long time. That's a lot of pain. That's a lot of wounding, a lot of trauma, which I would suggest, and, you can't prove cause and effect, I would suggest still affects us to this day. Phyllis and I had an amazing conversation yesterday morning, processing through things from so many years ago. And we're in our 60s. It's like, no, we're healed. We're over that. We're past that. Nope. Sorry. You're only one psyche. You cannot compartmentalize, just doesn't work. And we are able to process through it now. And I love what you said, Lydia, again and again and again. Yeah, that's the human condition. That's the human experience. And Phyllis and I will process it through again and again and again, just like Lydia and Sebastian will do, just like everybody else will do. But we now know how to do that. Whereas for so many years in our relationship, we just didn't have a clue. So I've said to the two of you before, couples like you piss me off a little bit because you are learning, you've learned so early on what to do and how to do it. Again, it doesn't mean you live in a fairy tale. It just means you know what to do next. And of course, we have just grown to adore the two of you. There's just so much joy and just even just seeing you, but getting to observe your story is spectacular, which we have believed for a long time was possible. And the two of you are just an incredible prototype of being able to see that, yeah, this is how people can live. And just like you say, Lydia, that most people, and I've been in this field a long time, most men and women, but women think, yeah, sex is just going to be really painful for a while. So here's a stick you can bite down on and just endure it, which is so amazing. Sorry, I'm getting going on this. It just annoys me so much that we've given that message. And again, this is our story. This is what we lived. So Phyllis experienced pain, our first sexual encounter, physical pain and emotional pain. Well, the next day, there's no way her psyche is going to let her want to do that again. And instead, her psyche says, hey, let's go water skiing instead, which is what we did. We did a lot of water skiing on our honeymoon because there's no way that Glenn, the groom, is going to go, hey, you know that thing that was really, really painful for you? You want to go do it again? There's no way Phyllis is going to say yes. And so she didn't. And again, that set us up for defeat for a very long time. Yeah. So beautiful. I'm so proud of the two of you.
Love that so much. Yeah. So, a year in, what have you learned even about each other or about life together, being married, having that relationship 24/7?
Wow, such a good question. Oh, I would say that there's always more to the story. Like, I just love so much how you guys taught us to be curious. And it's so easy just to guess that, oh, this is why he's experiencing that when he's doing the emotion wheel, and just be like, oh, anger and this thing that he mentioned, well, it must be this, or just fill in the blank, and just diving deeper and just asking, oh, what's happening? What am I missing? There are so many amazing aspects of this human being that I get to discover just by asking this question. And I love it too. I just love it so much.
A cool story from today. We had a disconnect, and of course it doesn't feel good, but I told her afterwards, it's okay. I knew I can wait 2 minutes and then we can talk about it and just process it. And yeah, I feel like how the disconnects we experience lose their weight because we know they will be processed and we will find together again.
Wow.
So no, wait, what did that mean? You said, I can wait 2 minutes. What does that mean?
She did something which she couldn't pause. And then I knew I don't have to say it right now. I mean, that would be the best thing. Of course, I know this. But yeah, just knew, okay, I can wait for 2 minutes. It sucks, but we can talk in 2 minutes and it will be away in a few seconds because we can process it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the reason I highlight that is because for most couples, they would take 2 minutes any day. And you know our story, 2 minutes. Are you kidding me? We were 2 weeks in this painful just disconnect. This we lost each other. And I always said that there's nothing worse on the planet than bad marriage. And we lived bad marriage, not because we're bad people. We didn't do it on purpose. We didn't need better intentions. We didn't need more effort. We were exhausted already. We were just clueless. We were toolless. And if you had said to me, 30 years ago, hey, dude, this could take 2 minutes. This turmoil, this pain, this conflict, this disconnect that you're experiencing with Phyllis could take 2 minutes. I wouldn't have believed you to start with, but I would have signed up for that immediately. Because and I wouldn't have believed you. I probably would have laughed at you like, no. These things take days.
Right.
These things take weeks to either resolve or not even resolve. They just kind of go away and we just give up and forget about them. And we didn't forget about them. It was stored in our bodies. But 2 minutes, dang, sign me up for that. And I just love it because it's true that that's possible. But most people don't believe that. And we sit with a lot of people, a lot of couples, a lot of relationships. And when we tell them that, this could take 2 minutes or even 30 seconds, they're like, that's stupid. That's not true. There's no way that this could be a 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute interaction. but it's true. And I just love it that the two of you are experiencing that, where it's like, well, shoot, and you even label it as a disconnect. I wouldn't even call that a disconnect, if you're a few minutes, and again, you can, whatever language you use, I don't care. But, for me, a disconnect is where I don't even want to be in the same room as her. We are disconnected, and we don't do that very often anymore. We may have a conflict, we may have a tense moment. And it sounds to me like what you're describing is a tense moment, which is still, your pain is your pain. I get that. But it's just amazing. And the problem is people don't believe that it's even possible, much less doable. And you're such an incredible, shining example. Because one of our big struggles is that people think that we won the lottery or something, that we just eventually figured it out. And to have examples like the two of you, where it's like, oh, no, you don't have to be married 40 years before you get this. You can actually live connected. And yeah, you're going to miss occasionally. You're going to have a miss with each other, but you can live a connected life. I've believed in that for a long time. And so I'm just so thankful to get to see, people like the two of you, where you're actually that real life application of it. It's so beautiful.
I experienced a lot of joy in your story because when we hear this, that the tools with the connection codes work in other countries. They work with different languages. They're not different cultures. And that is such an incredible joy for us in all of this. And to even expound a little bit more on just because, we're American, you're German, and just to go, okay, so we're really different in how we probably culturally, different. And, we've often even heard people talk about like with different cultures, like emotion is not talked about, or emotion is kind of a sign of weakness and those kinds of things. There's a lot of judgment around emotion. What would you say to anyone that's listening that either has, family in Germany or connections in Germany, or maybe some of our listeners are in Germany? What is your vision for what you can do with connection codes in Germany as one of our coaches? Yeah. What is your vision with that?
To bring the connection codes everywhere. That's really our vision. Like, honestly, I do the core emotion wheel with my students, and I'm a teacher, and I'm teaching primary school children. So I just see how amazing those children can just find their emotions and even just get regulated, just be more focused, just listen better, just even behave better. All my colleagues ask me, oh, why is your class always the easiest? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this like for years now. Just start doing it. It's not that difficult. And it's really my vision to bring that to schools and to parents, of course, because they are the ones that really need this tool. But also, of course, to all the couples and to all the singles. And I know it sounds just insane and crazy, just bring it everywhere. Yeah, for me, even just in my relationship to God, this has helped me so much. I mean, when we encountered this sexual struggle for me, it wasn't painful. I was like, yeah, let's just do it now and enjoy it. And he was in pain and also not able to kind of meet that expectation. And there was so much pain for me towards God. I just felt so betrayed from God. And it was so hard for me to go to him with this, because it was like, you're the one who messed this up because you designed sex that way. And now I thought, I'm not the problem. That won't be a problem. But that this is just so complicated, and that he kind of trapped me in this situation where I cannot do anything to change it. And I had to process a lot of anger with God, and just knowing that my emotion happens to me and I can tell God again and again, because he designed me this way. It's not a surprise to him. He's not mad at me for feeling anger. yeah, just helped me so much. I really believe I would have become a very cynical and mad person if I wouldn't have been able to process that, of course, with God and also with Sebastian.
Yeah, and that's what we experience. There's no culture or countries. Emotions is true for every human. And it's our heartbeat to help people getting better relationships, better marriage, just giving them the tools to connect, to process the emotions, and to bring this awesome thing to Germany.
Yeah. And we've talked about this, just like your story reaches people that are single, that want to date, that maybe are dating, that are engaged or early married life. It's like there's so many things about your story that touches all of those kinds of people, that just the reality of it, just the realness. And I loved what you just said, Lydia, in that having the ability to process with God, having the ability and to know that if you are feeling anger towards God, that it's for you to say to him, I feel anger about this. I feel really sad that we're struggling in this area. And that just to know that God is able and wants to hear that from you. Like, oh my goodness, just that deepens our relationship with him. And that it's such a beautiful thing. And as you said, he's the one who created us with this emotion. And, I can just see you guys. I mean, even as we're talking on this podcast, I just really pray that doors will open in Germany for you guys to share your story. That's what it's about. It's just your story is a powerful story. And to be able to go into whether it's churches or schools, like to share your story. And of course, there's different parts of your story that impact different groups. Like I think, Lydia, for you to have an opportunity to share with fellow teachers, like this one simple tool that you guys have translated into German. And, for y'all as a couple to be able to go into groups, and especially churches, faith-based communities where they are striving to date well. They are striving to have purity in their relationship, and to hear your story and to know, okay, we've got to learn this emotion piece. We've got to be emotionally connected, because there are things that happen in life that you don't know ahead of time are going to happen. And to stay connected and to be able to go, yeah, we just process our pain. And even when, like even today, you guys had a miss with each other, and to go, hey, we're going to be okay because we can process this. We don't have to stuff it or separate over it and be mad for days and angry with each other for weeks. It's like, no. We'll do this, give it a minute, and we can talk about it in a really healthy way. Is such a beautiful and powerful thing. And I just, if anyone is listening and they're like, well, I've got friends in Germany, connect them to Sebastian and Lydia. And we will put in our show notes how people can find you guys, like how they can connect with you. We're so excited that you guys are Connection Codes coaches, that you've been part of our cohort here for the last, oh my goodness, has it been 4 months? We've been together for 4 months. And what a beautiful group of coaches that are there for each other, and grew so much through this. I remember, Sebastian, especially our very first week, and you were like expressing so much fear about speaking, and here you are doing a whole podcast. So it's just incredible to see your growth and also just your heart, because I know sometimes when you share your story, I know I experience this every time I get on stage. There's still fear. I feel fear of judgment. I experience fear of rejection. It's not easy to put your story out there, and it can be a very lonely experience. And so thank you guys so much for just your vulnerability. But I also want so much for your story to be heard by thousands and thousands of people. And I know that there are people hungry for this in Germany and German speaking countries. Like, I just want you guys to be those people who have the opportunity to share over and over your story and the simple tools that you've learned through the connection codes. And so thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah. And I just want to say that I'm inspired by the two of you every time we talk. We're the founders of the connection codes. We've been in this for a while, but it's just so inspirational too. And I would suggest even, especially to see younger people who are going to be on this journey, on this quest long after we're gone, and to hand it to the next generation and the next generation, because it's a world vision where our target audience is 8 billion people, which is a lot. And the two of you are going to be such an integral part of that, just reaching people. And your vulnerability, your honesty, your openness, your authenticity is just spectacular. So we're inspired by that and just so honored to get to be in this with you. It's just so beautiful.
So any closing thoughts before we say goodbye? Well, actually, you know what? We've forgotten one main thing.
We didn't do the wheel.
Oh, my word.
Oh, my goodness.
We always do the wheel. We just got
we're in trouble.
so excited. Okay, this is a lot of pressure. So will you guys do the wheel to end our podcast?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, this is a little crazy. Should we have them do it in German? Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, but then our American audience won't be able
then
to
they can go learn German.
Okay, there you go.
Could you do it in German?
Y'all
Would you
do
do
it
that?
in German. Love that.
Sure.
That'd be amazing.
Okay.
I love it.
Take it away.
Okay. You want to start? Shall I start?
Okay, so I'll start in German then. Wut, ganz viel Wut, dass wir uns noch nicht so weit verbreiten konnten in Deutschland mit den Connection Codes, dass viele Leute, die das hören, einfach immer noch denken, so, Emotionen, was für ein Müll, kennt jeder, was auch immer. Ganz viel Scham darin, dass mir schwerfällt, Zeit zu finden, um das aktiv voranzubringen, und Schuld darin, Angst, dass Deutschland noch nicht so weit ist, dass es viele Menschen gibt, die sich damit gar nicht beschäftigen wollen, mit ihren Emotionen, mit dem, was in ihnen vorgeht. Ja, ganz viel Einsamkeit darin, das schon oft geteilt zu haben und nicht immer die Reaktion zu kriegen, von der wir gedacht hatten, dass sie kommen wird. Auch sehr viel Trauer darin, unglaublich traurig, leidende Paare zu sehen, Paare, die einfach dauerhaft in Streit und in Verletzung leben. Verletzung darin, wenn ich in Connection Codes Sprache rede und meine Emotionen authentisch teile und Menschen dann einfach so reagieren, wie sie halt immer reagieren, wenn Emotionen geteilt werden, mit nicht so wichtig und Schwamm drüber und stell dich nicht so an. Aber unendlich viel Freude, dass wir die Connection Codes finden durften, dass wir ein Leben in Verbundenheit verbringen und wirklich tagtäglich erleben dürfen. So unendlich viel Freude darin.
Dankeschön.
Danke. Okay. Wut. Ich habe bei der Arbeit Wut empfunden, weil die Kommunikation oft sehr schlecht ist. Darin auch sehr einsam. Scham, auch bei der Arbeit, weil es um eine Präsentation ging und ja, wie wir es vorhin schon angesprochen haben, ich sehr Angst habe, vor Menschen zu reden. Darin auch Angst und Schuld, weil ich dann auch das Gefühl hatte, das Team so ein bisschen im Stich zu lassen. Traurig über unseren kurzen Disconnect vorhin, aber auch ganz viel Freude, weil ich weiß, wie schnell wir wieder connecten können, wie schnell wir die Dinge verarbeiten können, weil wir drüber reden und weil wir einfach sicher sind füreinander. Und auch Verletzungen in dem Disconnect.
Ja.
Wow. Was that all of them?
I lost track.
I did too. Wow. Well, thank you guys
And just,
so
I understood
much.
some of that.
I know
So
you did, babe. I could tell. I could tell.
Majority, but I understood a bit.
Yes.
So that's pretty fun.
Wow. Well, as we always say, as we end our podcast, we do all of this.
Yes, because you need this.
You deserve this. So let's do this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Lydia and Sebastian for coming on the podcast today and sharing their story and just being open and vulnerable. And I know it brought Dr. Glenn and Phyllis so much joy to hear them do the core emotion wheel in German. But if this is your first episode and you're like, I don't even know what happened there, that was how Lydia and Sebastian were sharing with each other what was firing in their body. We use the core emotion wheel, which is the 4-minute tool that Dr. Glenn and Phyllis have created that helps you learn how to train your brain to identify and process your emotions so then you can connect in relationships. If you would like to have your access to your own core emotion wheel, there's a link in the show notes where you can get it for free and start processing today so you can live with energy and clarity and show up in your relationships as your whole self and your authentic self. It creates safety and vulnerability, and I am just completely obsessed with it. It changed my life. And also, if you're listening, you're like, okay, well, you've now mentioned certified coaching a few different times on these episodes recently. Maybe I want to be a certified coach. You're like, I would love to bring it into my therapy practice, or I've always wanted to be a coach. I just didn't know what I wanted to do or what method I wanted to use to help others. And this is the method. Please reach out to me so I can make sure you are on our email list so you will receive the very first updates for our next cohort that we will be launching this fall. As always, we are so honored that you share your time with us, that you are here with us and learning how to live in a world that is connected to each other. Thank you for your reviews. They help us grow our podcast to not only reach new listeners, but help us to get on other people's podcasts and spread this word. So thank you so much. And as Dr. Glenn and Phyllis already said, we do all of this because you need this, you deserve this, so let's do this.